but I grew up watching him on Mary Poppins.
Yep.
And I think you did too.
Yep.
And we're talking about Dick Van Dyke.
Yes.
Dick Van Dyke, you know him personally.
Yeah. It still blows my mind to this day. I'm like, because I grew up as a big Dick Van Dyke fan as well. When we were talking about movies and television, I grew up watching Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and Mary Poppins and watched the Dick Van Dyke Show. And growing up, my two favorite people in the acting world were Dick Van Dyke and Jim Carrey. And so I decided to write him a letter. I was like, this is so cheesy. But I printed out these pictures of him and pictures from Mary Poppins. I gave him like 5 or something. And I was like, hey, if you can choose whatever one you like, if you write, And I sent it off to him, and I didn't expect anything back. And like months had gone by, and I just completely forgot about it.
What did you say in the letter?
Oh, man.
I'm your biggest fan.
I don't know. I didn't get the letter back.
Message?
I didn't get the letter back. But I think I said like, hey, I've watched you growing up. You're one of my biggest inspirations. Like, God, I would love to meet you one day, but I don't know if that'll ever happen. And then I also knew a lot about the composer of Mary Poppins, who I also became friends with later on in life too. Wow. So like, it was just like mind blow. Still blows my mind. And so a year later, I start working with like this third party, like Disney website doing photos and video. Disneyland was about to celebrate their big 60th anniversary. And I saw that Dick Van Dyke had an event at one of the hotels. I was like, no way. And so I was just looking on social media. I was like, darn. I wish I knew about this. And some woman was posting with him and like some other woman. And I reached out to this woman. I was like, hey, this is a random question, but I'm like, I'm doing media tomorrow at Disneyland for the 60th anniversary. I'm like, do you know if Dick Van Dyke's going to be there? Turns out I messaged his wife. I didn't know it was his wife at the time.
Oh, my gosh.
I was like, oh, man. She opened it, never responded. I was like, darn it. But so the next day I'm like down in the crowds. It was a very busy day at Disneyland. And I'm just looking around, just looking for things to shoot. And I see him coming through the crowd. I'm like, holy crap. And I'm like, just freeze up. And I'm like, that's him. And he just walks right past me. And I'm like, hey. And I just like, I freak out. And then his wife sees me. And she's like, hey, Trevor. She's like, I saw your message. I didn't get to reply to you. And I was like, what? And she was like, hey, Dick, come back here. And he just kept walking. And I was like, no. And then he was gone. And I was like, darn. And she's like, sorry. She's like, maybe we'll see you on the way back out. And they ended up taking them out another way. So I didn't see them again. I was like, well, I'm like, that's as close as it's going to get.
Oh, but you tried. That was nice.
I tried. Month after that, I'm working at for this same Disney team, and this is at the D23 Expo, which is like Comic-Con, but Disney's version of Comic-Con. So it's like all the movies, all the theme parks, everything in one big convention. And we had a booth that I was kind of volunteering at, and I would get to the convention early every morning because I'm like, I spent all day at the booth, so I didn't really get to see around the convention much. So I got there early one morning, and I decided to like kind of make like a lap around the place to kind of see like what other people are doing. I was like, oh, these are cool little booths and stuff. And there was a booth that said Dick Van Dyke on it. I was like, no way. He was across the way. And I was like,
dang it, he's everywhere.
So I'm like, oh my gosh. I remember I like begged this team I was like working with. I was like, hey, is there any chance I could step away? I'm like, I swear, like this guy's my hero. He's only here today. I need to meet him. They're like, sure. And I'm like, it probably won't take that long. Like, I'm just going to hop in line. It won't take that long. And so I get in line, and I meet some really cool people who are still my friends to this day. And I remember watching people go in and out, taking pictures with him. Like you got like a professional photo with him, and then he could sign something. And people were just coming in and out so quick. Like they were like, no time for conversation. You just take your picture, get out. So I'm like, oh man, I can't even tell this guy
Thank you for
how much he
sending
means
my
to me.
pictures. Yeah.
I know. So I'm like, so I asked the people I was standing in line with, I'm like, do you think if I got in the back of the line, if I was the very last person to walk in there, like, do you think I would have more time with him? And they're like, you're crazy. They're like, you're crazy. We've already been standing here for an hour. And they're like, you're going to go to the back of that line Like, I don't know. But I'm like, I think it might have like a better shot to like, maybe they'll give me an extra minute to talk to them. They're like, if you want to do that, you can do that. But we're not going to do that. I'm like, all right. I'm like, I just met you guys. So I'm like, see ya. No, but it's funny because we stayed connected for a long time after. But I did. I went to the back of the line, ended up waiting 3 hours.
Oh my God.
Which I don't think I would ever wait that long for anyone ever. Again. But I was like,
after he told the people he's working with, I'll be right back.
Yeah.
yeah, they weren't too happy
They
with
sent
me
out a
about that.
search party.
They weren't too happy about that because they kept texting me. They're like, "Where are you?" I'm like, the line is moving really slow." And also, he kept taking breaks, so he would leave, and then there'd be like another 15-minute gap. So that's also why it took so long. But so I'm the last person in there, and his wife's like, "Oh, hey, Trevor," and I was like, "Wow." I'm like, "You remember me from a month ago?" And Dick was sitting there. He's like, "You two know each other?" And we're like, "No, I mean, not really, but we kind of." And she was talking to me and telling him who I was, and I was just, my heart was just pounding in that moment. I was like, I don't even know what to say.
You know who you are?
Yeah.
And it's funny because I ended up talking more to his wife than I was with him because I was just so nervous. I'm like, I can't look at you. I can't look at you because like, and so, yeah, I was like, all right, we got a great picture. I think they took like 2 or 3 pictures of us together, which you could only get one, but they took a couple. And I was like, oh, wow, this is so cool. And just from that alone, like she remembered who I was. And then I was like, okay, they kind of know who I am. So I was like, that was beautiful. I could
die happy.
I could live with that. I could die happy. And so it's always a month later. It's like a month later, something else happens. So a month later, I see on social media that he's going to be celebrating his 90th birthday at Disneyland.
Cool.
I know. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, and his wife had gone to like extreme lengths to. It had never been done before, where Disneyland was basically celebrating one person for like a giant birthday celebration. It was crazy. And they had all these activities happening throughout the day, and people flew from all over the world just to come see him at Disneyland that one day, which I'm like, that is insane, but that's awesome too. It's amazing how like one person can make that big of a difference around the entire world. And so I had reached out to her through social media. I said, hey, this is really random. I'm sure you already have somebody set up, whatever. But I'm like, if you need any videos, I'm like, I'd love to do some, video work, love to offer you like my services for free. I'll shoot your day at Disneyland, whatever. She was like, we do have a documentary guy, but we don't really have a videographer if you want to come and like shoot some of the fan stuff. And I was like, oh,
that's nice.
I was like, cool. And I wasn't expecting a reply. And so he was actually supposed to be doing a flash mob the day before at the Grove.
Wow, that's cool.
For his 90th birthday as well. So they kind of did like a whole weekend celebration. But I didn't say anything about the Grove. I wasn't going to go to the Grove for that. I was just said the Disneyland part. I was like, yeah, I'll just do the Disneyland part. And I remember the night before. It's the night before the Grove thing. I was like, something was like, I had this like itch where I was like, I feel like I need to go to that. But I'm like, I don't really want to go to that because I think it was something like 7 a.m. and I was living in Orange County at the time. So I'm like, I'm going to have to get up there, and
wake up at 5 a.m.
Wake up at 5. And this was I think it was like 2 a.m. when I was like having these thoughts. So I'm like, I'm only going to get 3 hours of sleep. But I don't know. For some reason, I was like, I need to be there. Yeah. I need to be there. I'm like, it sounds a little more smaller, more intimate than Disneyland. So I don't know. Something just told me, I'm like, I'll bring my camera to take pictures for fun. So yeah, I barely slept that night, drove up to the Grove. And yeah, like everybody's kind of set up there practicing and everything. And people had virtually practiced all of these dances to Mary Poppins. So cool. But people from all over the world too, again, like flew in for this. And I'm like, this is crazy. And his wife kind of came up to me in a panic and she was like, hey, we were supposed to have TMZ, a bunch of media outlets here today. And she's like, they had the wrong date or something and they're not showing up. Oh, no. So she's like, I need someone with a camera who can shoot this flash mob. And she's like, you have a camera? And she's like, you're going to shoot it. I'm like, wow, okay. Wow. Sure. Yeah. Like, all right. I'm like, that's...
Can't say no to her.
I know. And this is kind of when I was starting out with video as well. Like I didn't fully trust myself at the moment.
Yeah.
So I'm like, shit.
No pressure.
I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like, I need to do a really good job. And also it was like kind of like an incentive to really push myself to do
You're like
the
focus,
best.
camera on. Okay. SD card, it's in there. Okay.
Yeah,
At least that.
And so
How do I turn it on again?
Yeah.
I immediately snapped into like director mode because I was like, okay, she's giving me the opportunity to like direct something, which I hadn't really fully directed something before. So she was like, just tell us what you need us to do and we'll follow. And I was like, what? Okay. And so I said, I just snapped into it. I was like, I need this 4 times. I need you to perform this flash mob 4 times. And I went to all the different angles. So, but first I was like, I need to capture his angle because it was a surprise for him. So first, like I needed to get his initial reaction. And then I went around and shot all the different angles of everybody. And oh man, it was
So he did not know. He was just supposed to walk out.
he knew that there was a crowd there below, but he didn't know what was gonna
That's
happen.
cool.
He was just
Okay.
like, there's people here, and then they started singing and dancing to all the Mary Poppins songs, like a little melody of it, and but that morning was such a mess, though. It was such a mess, and they were playing this music through the sound system of the Grove. But there was like this weird, the timing was off. There was like this echoing music. And so the dancers were all out of sync. And so I'm like, this is a nightmare. Even his wife's like, this is a nightmare. All of us were like, this is a nightmare. They can't hear the music. And so then when I had to edit this whole thing, I had to put this soundtrack in and try to match it up with their dance moves.
Sure.
Which was a very tough job at the time, and also like it was very time sensitive. They're like, we want this video out by the afternoon.
Yeah. Wow.
So I had to book it back to Orange County and then edit this whole thing as fast as I could, running on 3 hours of sleep. And I did. I did it all, and I was like, whoo, and sent it out. And I closed my computer. I was like, all right, I'm not gonna look at it again. It's up there, it's good. And I guess overnight that video had gone viral around the world.
So we can look it up now.
You could look it up.
Okay.
Yeah. But it kind of like the Coldplay video. It went viral at the time. Mm-hmm. And it was on every news station. I was getting just message after message after message and like tagged in like a million things. I was like, your video's going around. I'm like, what? And oh my gosh. And yeah, it was shared on the news. Conan O'Brien had it on his show. Like it was just crazy stuff. And I was like, no way.